looking over and seeing the direct two past presidents of the society, each holding one of my girls in their arms because they knew both my husband and I needed a break. We needed to focus on what we were doing. And so each one of them just like quietly picked up one of my girls and was just holding their rocking back and forth. Like absolutely favorite memories. And like that's what the theme was really supposed to be about. Hello, I'm Karen Roth, FY25 President of the Society of Women Engineers. Welcome to Diverse, a SWE podcast. And if you love our episodes, be sure to leave us a 5-star rating on your favorite platform. At the end of June 2025, my time as SWE President will come to a close. It has been an amazing ride. I think every president every year tells you that when we do these presidential transitions, but it's absolutely true. And it's a different experience for every president, every board of directors, for every SWE year as all part of that. On today's episode, I'll share some of my reflections and highlights from the past year. I'm also excited to introduce you to our new FY26 SWE president, Darrat, who starts her term on July 1st. So I've known Ines for probably decades at this point in time, and I think one of our really great first experiences was collaborating back on content strategy and curriculum committee and really bringing that together with some strategy. So I'm hoping we'll hear a little bit more about that as you hear about Ines's journey to being SWE president herself. Ines, welcome to Diverse.
Thank you so much, Karen. And it's been a wonderful decades, I think, at this point, for how long we've known each other. And yes, I still remember my curriculum committee days and you as a board member days very fondly. So, Karen, you chose the theme Together We Rise to guide the past year of SWE. Can you tell me what Together We Rise means to you and what that looked like over the past year?
Yes, absolutely. And this is really going to be the last time where you guys all get to hear about my thinking on this and my memories. So let me see if I can't come together with some new stories about it. But for me, Together We Rise is really about the small moments that have so much meaning for everyone in our everyday lives. The small comments someone had made to me, and even just the small memories that other people have reflected back to me over the years. Minty, a decade later, she's like, I think about you whenever I eat strawberries. And I'm like, I don't understand. I love strawberries, but I don't understand it. And she's like, no, like you taking me strawberry picking was the first time a woman mentored me. And so now when she thinks about that, even though I was really focused on probably strawberry picking and making jam or something like that, but just that casual thing of inviting someone along with me to go do that thing that I wanted to go do that day and having a conversation with her lasted. And those are always the moments that stick with me. It isn't doing the big things or getting promotions or I can't say having children. That was important to me. I remember having my children. It's those little small conversations where someone said, hey, this is what you're doing wrong. This is how you need to fix it. Or, hey, you did good today. Thumbs up. From someone that mattered. That's really what Together We Rise means to me, that when we come together and support each other, we can have a bigger impact together. Yeah. And so over the past year, that looked like, someone lending me club passes so that way I could have an easier time while I was traveling between we locals. It meant someone taking a pause and making sure that I had a bottle of water going along with the flow. It was meeting all of the collegiates at conference and hearing their stories and seeing everyone together at conference, having a good time, talking about how this was their safe space and coming together of SWE and just being so excited and inspired by the theme. Like that was really what it came together and looked like. And it was really, the small moments too that one of my absolutely favorite memories of installation was looking over and seeing the direct two past presidents of the society, each holding one of my girls in their arms because they knew both my husband and I needed a break. We needed to focus on what we were doing. And so each one of them just like quietly picked up one of my girls and was just holding their rocking back and forth. Like absolutely favorite memories. And like that's what the theme was really supposed to be about. And I think it came out great this year. And there was so many great stories that I heard about how important it was for other people for this theme too. So I really appreciate everyone I asked people in Milwaukee to just like turn over their name tag and write a little phrase about what that meant to them and to think about that so that way they had something to carry with them. So anyone that's listening to this podcast, I want you to do the same thing. Take an old business card, take a piece of paper, like write down what this means to you and put it in a book or in a journal and just carry that with you and when open that back up whenever you need that. So that's my last little bit of advice for the end of the fiscal year for you.
So, Karen, you've clearly shared some stories, and I remember some of those from this past year. And what the beauty about SWE is our support network, and especially all the members and how we support each other and the volunteers, and personifies what SWE is. It started the year off that way and continued. So, appreciate you sharing your stories. Do you have any other accomplishments or stories you want to share with us?
I think if we focus on everything that we've accomplished this year as a society, we have so much growth coming. We have over 50,000 members now. This is our diamond anniversary of our 75th year. I think it's really cool to be the president that closes out our first 75 years as a society and then passing over to UNS to open up the next 75 years and everything that's going to come along with it. Those are absolutely huge. We had record-breaking conferences once again. We're going to introduce our second India conference. So we're going to host 2 every year now. We're going to start our first South American We Local next year and being able to introduce that. The whole board of directors, the board of trustees, and SWE staff. We've been doing a lot of work in order to plan for the future this past year. And that includes a lot of changes to our volunteer structure so that way we can prepare more to look to the future for globalization. That includes focusing on the board of trustees and how do we integrate them into our strategic planning processes more so that way we can look for more opportunities for fundraising, donations, all that kind of good stuff. And, I think we bit off a little bit bigger chunk than we anticipated, but we're absolutely moving in the right direction. So really focusing on those SWE accomplishments and everything that your entirety SWE leadership has been doing this year, I think is a good time to insert that here and really thank everyone for everything that they've done for this past year in order to make it successful.
From me personally, thank you, Karen, for the thank you. But thank you as well for your leadership throughout all of this and your support as we consider what we need to do to make sure that the next 75 years of SWE are successful. So thank you so much. I will second the thank yous to all the other SWE leaders who have helped us along the way this year to make reviews on our changes and where we want to lead into the future and where we're going with it.
And just like the excitement for the future too.
Yes, I'm so excited.
There was so many people that were like, all right, what are we changing? What are we doing? That were just excited and said, we're ready for this change. Let's go do it. There was so much excitement about it. And I think that's really great too.
I agree. And I'm really hoping the members and the volunteers really see the world's your oyster when it comes to SWE. There's a wide variety of leadership opportunities, volunteer opportunities, things you can do, and that we really are thinking about what our members of the future need and what our current members need today. So on that note, we talked about our future members, but you've been a member for over 20 years. And so after serving as SWE president for the society for the past year, and, for all these years, what are your plans after your term ends besides attending installation? Because that's one of your past president requirements.
Yes, I have to fulfill. I know that's what they don't tell you when they become president, right? Is you have a lot of other things that you still have duties and requirements as a past president of the society as well. I'm a life member of the society, so no one's getting rid of me anytime soon. So that's good. You're stuck with me for the foreseeable future for all of my other transition plans, but definitely taking a little bit of breather, a little bit of break. The girls have some plans for me on how they're going to insert themselves. They both have swim lessons coming up this summer. So, I got to transition back and forth between going right back to being a mom. So I think we've got swim lessons. We've got camp I've got to get the girls to. I think I probably got to do some work somewhere in there and get paid for that. My older girl is a Girl Scout, so she's a little Daisy. And so we have a Mommy and Me camp coming up. So I'm really looking forward to that. So that's just the summertime. But I'm going to transition. I'm still going to be supporting UNES through all of these changes next year. So I think that will be a big part of it. I just got to make sure that we balance some of those meetings alternates between swim lessons and camping too, okay?
Got it. I'll try my hardest. So on that note, as you're transitioning and I'm transitioning in as the next SWE president, what advice do you have for me as I start my term as SWE president?
The best advice that I got from Alexis last year, and I'm going to pass that on to you, and I think it's really important as part of the theme as well, is don't try to be anyone but yourself. She told it to me from the context of don't try to be me, don't try to be Dana as the last president. Like, your superpower is being exactly who you are. And so if you try to be me, you're not going to be the leader that you can be. And so that's important from that theme too, from the perspective of making sure that we can all help each other bring their authentic selves to the top. What is it that drives their leadership quality and help support them in bringing that out? I think that that is such great advice. And I needed that advice in my head throughout the year when I, stopped and had different challenges and things like that. But I am my best leader when I am exactly who I am. And that includes loving dinosaurs, loving alpacas, loving everything fluffy, being a mom, and bringing my girls along with me to conference and all of those kinds of things. That's exactly who I am. And you have so many other amazing things with your story and your theme with Embrace Your Story. So lean into that really hard. And I'm really excited to hear all of the stories that you're going to bring next year and everything that comes along with it.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you for the advice. That's advice I think you've shared a couple of times, and I used it at one of the WE locals where you had done the first presentation, and it was my time to, we were talking about the updates and the changes that we're making, and I was trying to use your script, and I was like, it's not me. I was like, it's not me. I was literally started it. I was like, it's not me. Restarted. It was just I felt like my authentic self. It's yes, you have to be you. You can't be someone else.
Right? And you have the benefit of not having two slightly hyperactive tiny toddlers following you around wherever you go too. So that makes it easier when you're not constantly stopping and turning around and trying to figure out where your children are.
I just have to worry about where I am.
Right? You focus on you. So now it's time to flip the script a little bit. I'd love to ask us some questions. For listeners who don't know yet, you can tell us about your career journey to this point, what your involvement has been with SWE. Introduce yourself to us.
Well, thank you, Karen. So let's see. I'm a chemical engineer. So I have a bachelor's and master's degree in chemical engineering. My first pivot was when I decided to get my master's degree and went to work instead of doing research and going on to be doing other things and planning on getting a PhD. So that was my first pivot in my career. And it's been a wonderful journey since then. I have to say that when I made those decisions, it was a very hard decision. And one of my biggest things, and part of my whole story, is embracing your failures. Many of us are high achievers and we want to succeed and we want the wins, but it's also realizing that your failures teach you a lesson. You're pivoting. So in my case, I decided not to get my PhD and I decided to go and just get my master's degree. So, at the time I felt like a failure. And now I look back on it and I was like, I wouldn't be here today if that was the case, because along the way I moved back to the Midwest. And in moving back to the Midwest, I got my job with Trinity Consultants a little bit after. I did another job before then, but I moved and started working for Trinity. And when I moved to Trinity Consultants, I started working in Columbus. And that's where I met Jessica Reno, who's a past SWE president. And Jessica and I have been friends for many years. And not only that, but she has been a great SWE mentor. And just working together from a SWE perspective, getting to be friends, getting to know each other. You and I met because I was a curriculum committee chair. The reason why I was curriculum committee chair was because Jessica asked me to put my name in for a leadership position. So that's kind of the opportunities. And through it all, I've gotten to meet people. There's many a person I know that I just meet at SWE conference once a year. And it's been such a wonderful journey with SWE, and then just having that support network and just having people support you throughout it. And then once I worked for Trinity, I've gotten promoted a couple times. And then one of my areas of expertise are with chemical plants and refineries and oil and gas facilities. And living in Columbus, Ohio, is very hard to say that our expert in these fields lives in Columbus, even when we're talking, because I do work in the U.S. as well as globally. And so the company asked me if I would move to Houston, Texas at the time and take on this new role that was being made just for me. So I took the role on. At that point, I actually gave up my dream of what I planned on doing as SWE leadership because of the move. So again, I pivoted from that perspective, from a SWE pivot, and decided to go do other things. So one of them was then to end up doing curriculum and then go sit on the NOM SWE.com and do a couple of other things. Along the way, I've done other SWE responsibilities, but I got to meet the women who are part of the SWE Houston section, and they've been great supporters, and also with like everything with installation and everything, and met some wonderful leaders. And then some of the board members that I currently serve with, I met through the fact that, they live in Austin and live in Dallas. So we got to know each other over the years and been great supporters of each other. So that's my SWE journey. At Trinity, I've continued to be there. I celebrated 21 years in May. I'm a technical expert. That's what my passion is in. I manage people, and I will say that for me is just one of the things that lessons learned is I really like the technical piece of it. I like the topics. I love going to a facility and like breaking things down and figuring out like, oh, you have this distillation column, you have these reactors, you have these vessels. How do you have to comply with, the requirements that the US EPA has? And so I've loved that journey. I've learned to be a people manager with both of those. With my leadership style, I've learned to pivot along the way, learn from the successes and the successes I've seen with other leaders, and then also realizing that you're going to try your best every day, but there are going to be days where you're just going to be a hard day. And I think that's really what this theme is also about, is embracing who you are and realizing no one is perfect, and realizing that we can show up and try to be our best selves that day. And if today just happens to be you're not your best self, then you try tomorrow and you learn from today. I wasn't born in the United States, so I'm an immigrant, but I'm also a refugee. At the time, Libya had a dictator, so my family was one of the people who opposed him. And so moving to the U.S. was that experience for us. But I'm very lucky. I get to technically call 3 places my hometown. The town I was born in, which is in Aachen, Germany. My hometown, which is where my parents are from, which is Misrata, Libya. And then Lexington, Kentucky. And so, yes, my journey has been slightly different, but I've learned to embrace who I am. And from that comes different parts of my personality, but also to learn to be a better leader and to understand what I need to do better.
I love that story, and I'm so looking forward to hearing more bits of that story throughout the years. I actually just learned a little bit. I didn't realize that Anas had looked at doing a PhD at one point in time. So every time that we talk to each other, we learn little new things, and I think it's such a great transition from Together We Rise to embracing your story, being your authentic self through that. So I love the transition. I'm hoping all of the listeners can find new bits on what they've learned this year and how they integrated that leadership story. And now they're going to think about that in a different way next year. I think that's really great. Can you tell us a little bit more about what Embrace Your Story really means to you?
Really, it's a matter of being true to yourself, right? And being authentic to yourself and realizing that things happen for a reason. And so celebrate your successes, but it's not just about those successes. Look at what you would consider a failure or not your best day. And did you learn from it? That's the question. Did you learn from it? Did you embrace who you are? And are you constantly putting yourself down? In order to grow, you need to understand that, okay, this was wonderful. Is there something I could have done differently? Even if it was great success, is something I could have done differently. Okay, this didn't go as well as I expected it to, or I've heard some feedback back on this. It doesn't mean that you have to adjust every time, but is there a lesson you learned, or do you just say pivot? The thing I think about, and maybe the thing that simplifies it the most, is if you've ever seen the Friends scene where they're taking the couch up the stairs, and it's like pivot, pivot, pivot. I had the honor of doing We STEM at one of the colleges for the graduate students, and one of my slides was that meme, was pivot, pivot, pivot as a lesson, because that to me is really what Embrace Your Story is. It's that you don't have to be on a linear line. You can zigzag along the way. You can turn back around. You can do a 180. You can do a 360 for that matter. But it's really did you take on yourself, and are you being true to yourself?
And I think if we look at our careers and we look at being engineers, if there is any engineering project that anyone out there has ever done in the entirety of their life where it went perfectly the first time, one, please tell me, because I've never heard of one. And so I'd love to hear that story. And two, if we give ourselves the grace to pivot and change and understand that engineering is pivoting, is coming up with new solutions to problems and solving problems, we need to make sure that we give ourselves the grace for that in our lives as well. I know it's certainly not the thing that I'm always the best at doing because, I lay out a plan, I expect expect that plan to be executed. I'm going to execute that plan the right way, but almost treating our lives as that engineering project of being able to pivot as changes come along, as our requirements change, as, you don't meet expectations or you exceed expectations on whatever your limitations and failures look like within the project, and then living our own lives within those boundaries as well. I think that that's really going to be great as we move forward. So before we close out, what are you most excited for when it comes to taking on this next role of president of the Society of Women Engineers?
Really excited about, I guess, many, many things. One of my favorite things is meeting the members. I've had the privilege to be able to go to, I think I went to all the WE Locals this past year and the conference. And then last year I went to many WE Locals. I'm really excited about the inaugural WE Local in Brazil this year, WE Local Campinas. And so really just seeing how much we're growing globally. I'm also really excited about seeing our members support each other in some of these challenging times. And with all the updates and changes that we're making, really want to see, putting the society on our next best foot forward and starting our 75th year. I'm just really looking forward to working with all the leaders that I get the pleasure of working with, just seeing what we can do. And, every year we do more and more. And I always think, oh, can we do more? And the answer is yes, absolutely, we can. Just to really see the fact that we are not wavering from our mission. That's what I'm really the most excited about is, we're not wavering from the mission, that we're empowering women to be their best selves and to be engineers and leaders, and really, really excited about us continuing that mission and moving it forward.
So thank you for that incredible conversation. I can't think of anyone at all that I couldn't be more proud to turn over the reins to as the 63rd president of the Society of Women Engineers. I will be enjoying my retirement as the 62nd president of SWE and enjoying this and really looking forward to everything that's going to happen next year. You have 62 other presidents in the wings ready to support you, ready to step out for anything you and the board of directors and the trustees and staff need us for. Otherwise, we'll be chilling in the back corner having a cocktail, I think, probably most likely, supporting you quietly in the background as you continue to grow the society for the future.
Well, thank you, Karen, so much. Thank you for a wonderful FY25. It's been wonderful to serve with you. I've always enjoyed working together and serving together within SWE, so this was a wonderful year. And so I want to thank you for a great year this year and for all your support on everything that we've done this year.
I have a feeling this isn't going to be the last time where we're going to get to work together, though. We'll cook up something else.
No, I'm pretty sure we'll be working together for many years to come.
We're just going to figure out what the what next is.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
it's never the end of the journey. We're just going to pivot into something new, right?
Exactly.
So for everyone that's listening, I'm Karen Roth. And for the last time as your FY25 SWE president, from all of us at SWE, thank you for listening.